Let's talk more on this and speak to journalist Charlie McGrath. He's the founder of the online service Wide Awake News, joining me live now from the States. Charlie, the G8's trying to do what the EU has so far failed to, and that, of course, is solve Europe's financial crisis, with particular emphasis on Greece at the moment. What could it achieve, do you think?
I think it's a great question. Absolutely nothing. I mean, we've seen this topic be at the top of the list of the G8 for how many years now? How many years has this crisis been going on inside of Europe? The fact is simple. You know, here in the United States, we're sitting at $15.7 trillion in debt. In the last year, we've added $13,000 in debt per household in this country. So I think it's pure optimism coming out of this G8 summit that somehow they're going to throw together a plan to rescue Europe. And, you know, it's ironic because we keep talking about Greece over and over and over again for the last several years, but the problem isn't just Greece. Greece is a relatively small economy. The problem is the European debt load, period. And, you know, nobody's addressing the real problem, which is these banks that have loaded up the debt on all these countries. They've issued this debt, but everything under the sun is being tried to save these too big to fail institutions from having to realize any kind of a loss. And this is why I think over the last couple of years we've seen things like the European Stability Mechanism, the EFSF, one idea after another that brings a little bit of hope to the markets and then fails quickly. I think it's real simple. You're not going to solve debt by throwing countries further into debt.
Nice word, optimism there. Perhaps that optimism, as you say, could be a veil for real sentiments there at the G8. They've obviously expressed support, but do you think secretly, as we said at the start of this programme, they would like to see Greece pull out of the Eurozone?
Well, since we're going to talk on what we think secretly, I'll let my opinion out there. I believe in 2010, late 2010, early 2011, as Der Spiegel reported, Wolfgang Schäuble, the finance minister of Germany, whispered in Angela Merkel's ear, let's use this crisis to advance a united political Europe. And we'll use this economic crisis to cede power from these nations and give more and more of it to Brussels. Now, the day before this G8 summit, the ECB, the former head of the ECB, Jean-Claude Trichet, announced a plan. And of course, his plan involved declaring countries bankrupt within Europe, ceding their sovereignty and giving the power to Brussels to implement their financial governance. Now, this has been the announced plan by the ECB, by these technocrats in Europe, and as well as the United States for quite some time, which is we need this kind of global financial governance in order to fix the problem. And, you know, it's almost as if they're governing by crisis, using one crisis after another to make their own point. And he states in his plan, we need a quantum leap in governance. They absolutely have an agenda, and I believe it is to let these countries wallow in their own financial failure and then offer a solution which is taking their sovereignty and governing them from on high, from Brussels.
Yes, you mentioned that power in Brussels. What about the power in Germany at the moment? We're seeing, obviously, the most successful economy in the Eurozone. Do you think, though, that what we're seeing with the G8 leaders now saying they want to see growth as opposed to austerity, which is, of course, Germany's message there, going for that austerity push to solve the problems. Do you think we're having perhaps a challenge against Germany's dominance there, and perhaps even Germany being isolated over this matter?
Absolutely, and I think we'll see, you know, what did we just have last weekend in a Western state in Germany? Merkel's party, the Christian Conservatives, or whatever the name of their party is, lost one state that was strongly behind them in support. The people of Germany, I think, are tired of hearing this, taking on more debt of these European countries. The people of Europe are tired of hearing about austerity. That's why Sarkozy was ousted for Hollande in the recent elections there. So I think we're seeing a lot of turmoil inside of Europe. And at this G8 conference, when they're talking about hope and getting it all together, again, you know, I think this is just trying to put a pretty face on it, this optimism. Okay. So when the markets open Monday, they can have some good news to report.
Just briefly, you're in the States, I'm here in Russia. Putin, he isn't attending that summit. Now Obama's saying he won't visit a major summit in Russia in September. What are we looking at in terms of relations between the two?
You know, that's a great question. But my relationship with you is just fine. However, between nations, I think it's getting very, very hostile. You know, we keep talking about pressing the issue in Iran, in Syria, in the Middle East, in North Africa, and Russia keeps saying, you know what, if you could start a war by putting your missiles this close to our country. you know, here we are. We're borrowing 40 cents of every dollar, and I'll keep it brief. We're borrowing 40 cents of every dollar to implement this Empire America. And the fact is, we are stepping on toes around the world in the midst of an economic crisis, which could turn into, I mean, these things often do throughout history go from a financial crisis into a military crisis. And it seems like the relations between Russia and the U.S. Are heading towards a more confrontational relationship.
Despite the resetting of relations, so they say. All right, thank you very much indeed, Charlie McGrath. Good to hear your thoughts. Base founder of the independent news website Wide Awake News. Good to hear your thoughts.